everybody, Carson here. Welcome to Living the Line. I'm back with my beautiful partner, Torie, and we're going to be checking out a really amazing book today. I mean, it is just a beast of a book. We're going to be looking at Davis Advantage for Medical Surgical Nursing, Making Connections to Practice, the second edition.
Yeah, and this is like one of my favorite textbooks right now. I'm really just enjoying digging into this.
I'm glad you're this yeah. Looks like a beast of a book.
I love med-surg.
Okay, no, that looks awful. What we're gonna do is we're gonna look at the subscriber's request after our last video together, which was the Marie Kondo manga.
Life-changing manga.
Of tidying.
Of tidying up.
People asked that Torie read death, and so I went and got the absolute death so we could look at all the death stories, not just the high cost of living. And given that the Sandman show just came out, he seems even more well-timed.
Yeah. But
that's not intentional. So we're going to flip through the book, and she read it and I read it, and we both made notes. And we'll see what happens. Is there anything you wanted to say generally before we flip through it?
I don't know. I don't know if I enjoyed it.
Okay, but you'll point out why as we go?
I'll try.
Okay. We'll just make this up as we go.
Yeah, I don't even totally remember all the notes that I made.
Neither do I, because I made them like a month ago.
Yeah.
It took Torie a little while to work her way through it.
It took me like 3 days.
It definitely wasn't something you burned through.
But I also didn't want to like rush through it and not think about the stories. So I wanted to take my time.
You and my mom are better readers than me.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're good at like going through and getting a good general idea. But I like to kind of mull it over. Which is why sometimes I'll be reading like 8 books at once because I want to stop and think about what that book said. So while I'm like digesting that, I'll read something else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, good comic readers are used to like, we read like 8 issues.
Yeah, it's like a faster kind of reading too. Yeah. But I just wanted to like give it a fair chance and like think everything through.
Okay. Well, let's see. We both put a note on this. Always have a quest. And you put happiness of pursuit. Weight loss. I'll be happy at such and such a weight, but not really. Focus on the journey.
Yeah, because the dream guy is like bummed out, right? We both made a note about that because he's like, well, now everything's done and I'm like bored. And I think we've both talked about that idea too, where it's like creating your own purpose and making your own next quest or next project or next goal is what gives life meaning. It's not like achieving the thing.
Yeah, or that if you achieve something like and you don't have a next step, you can actually be depressed.
Yeah, like that can't be the culmination. And I related that to like weight loss because a lot of people, I don't know, because, you know, I like follow fitness accounts on Instagram and stuff. And a lot of those women like explain that they achieved the weight goal. They achieved the physique goal. They got the championship, like physique contest, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I forget what it's called. So, and then they did all that and they still didn't feel like satisfied. So it took them all of that to realize that it wasn't about the weight loss. It was about like the changes they were making.
Yeah.
And learning to like themselves just how it is.
I think I've always been like relentlessly on to the next thing. But if I don't have the next thing, I go a little crazy. So it's like something I kind of intuitively know. But
yeah, you're very naturally like that. It takes me a little bit more effort to make a concrete. I'll get that like restlessness, but I don't have like a target for it. You're good at like making a target, but it takes me a long time to find a thing.
I think that's why I noted that too. It's just, I think that's like like he didn't say always have a quest, and then suddenly the quest was over, and I just thought that was like a good way to sum it up. Is just always have a quest.
Yeah, because he's like the downside of not doing that, right? He has like that general like malaise and like ennui of just.
Yeah, and you haven't really read Sandman, so you don't get too great of a sense of who this character is in this book, but he is kind of just like a shitty, depressed, like whiny teenager, even though he's like one of the most powerful entities in creation.
Yeah, that's like the vibe I got, was that I remember having that same feeling of like, well, there's no point. Oh, well, because he says it's as natural to die as to be born.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons that people recommended that, like, this would be the next one that you read, because anyone who's been following the channel knows that you're interested in end-of-life care.
Yeah.
And, like, has seen your hauls where it's, like, 1,000 books on, like, death and death rituals and stuff. So I think that's why they said this one next. And then I think the other reason they said this one next is just that historically, like, Sandman and Death and Neil Gaiman's work has had, like, a large female audience relative to most comics.
No, I do like this whole spiel about her, about how they fear death, but not dreams, like, and they don't view her as a gift. Like, they don't view death as a gift, which a lot of people are, like, afraid to die.
Yeah, and, like,
resist it. And we were just talking this morning about, like, extending life, but not stopping to ask, like, if we should.
Yeah, like someone's 97 and the crash unit's coming in. And
yeah, like, do we really need to do chest compressions and, like, pump her full of drugs to try and restart her heart? But she's going to be on a ventilator for, like, a month and then die anyway.
97 with cancer. You're like,
yeah, like, she's in pain every day. Like, maybe we should just not.
I also just think they're grappling with the fact that these are, like, largely eternal beings. And part of his, like, depression is just, like, he'd been around too long, you know? And so that's a blessing. Like, it would be a curse to live forever.
Oh, for sure.
And there's characters in the Sandman comic that are eternal. They're like humans that have been
they
gifted
show one
with
of them.
eternal life.
Yeah. That weird. But yeah, and I think it's interesting, before we go ahead, I think it's interesting too that she shows, like, traumatic deaths, not just, like, the old lady in the hospital bed. Because, like, it doesn't always seem like a gift, but, like, ultimately without death, like you said, we would all be bananas. This was really all weird for me too, because I didn't understand what the hell was going on with this person. She's got, like, weird faces on the wall, and she, like, can make herself look human, sort of. It's just, and the government sends her, like, a stipend. It was really weird for me.
And by the end of it, you didn't have a better sense of, like, who this character was. Like, it didn't explain itself through the story.
No, I was, like, even more confused, because at the end she's like, oh, just look at the sun and talk to him. Just talk to Ra. And I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about? And then she's like, cool. And then she just explodes into dust. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? I was truly baffled. And I tried to set that aside and just go for the ride of the story, like the emotional story. But it was kind of hard.
Kind of hard? Okay, so you definitely
love this woman. She looks like the Phyllis lady from the UFC night. And
as a young woman.
Yeah, and this is 100% the aesthetic I'm going for as an older woman.
Just scarves and long dangly.
And the giant glasses, and then, like, the weird permed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
get ready, babe.
I didn't know that that's what I was signing up for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this woman is some kind of like has elemental powers where she can turn into the different elements like gas and...
Yeah, I did gather that ultimately.
Like I think this is metamorpho. I don't know either, but I feel like I have a better sense as a comics reader of like, it's not exactly who this character is, but like the type.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I could like piece together those things, and I don't know. But
I like the reason I put a note here is Death is saying, you people always hold on to old identities, old faces, and masks long after they've served their purpose. And I wrote the note, Mary Kondo your psyche.
Yeah, I do think that's important. Like as a person, as you grow, to be okay putting aside. Like I used to be a huge nerd, right? Like I played video games all day and like read
You still
manga. I mean, I'm still a huge nerd, but like I was
super kawaii you.
But you know, it was like my whole identity.
Yeah.
And so now I've been able to like box that up, like break that down and like throw out big chunks of that, because now I'm like, you know, I have different goals and priorities and like passions. So I do think that's a good way to put it, and like to look at it. You have to let go of like old parts of yourself.
Yeah, and like move on. And so that's why I think like the masks that she has, she's like keeping all these old, like it's like keeping all your fingernails or something. It's like just let things slough off. And if there's anything I like about Neil Gaiman's writing is that he will put those in the midst of all this kind of big universal kind of battles between elementals. They're kind of these little nuggets of like helpfully human moments that I like.
No, I liked that too. I didn't want to put a note there because you had, and I knew we would talk about it, but I also liked that.
One of your other old identities that made me excited for you to read this is you had your goth phase.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering like how much the little goth girl, 16-year-old goth Torie, is like vibing on this, or if it's just like passe.
No, I think 16-year-old goth Torie would probably have enjoyed this a little more.
But like 32-year-old Torie.
He's, you know, 25-year-old Torie is.
25-year-old.
No, yeah, no,
Why are you trying to make it look like I'm dating a 25-year-old?
Oh, yeah, no, you're right, I'm 32. Okay. Yeah, the aesthetic now is just kind of like, okay, well, it's gothy girl.
It's like teenage girl stuff.
Yeah, it just feels... I mean, I know there are plenty of adults who are goths, and that's fine. But, like, it's just not a reality for me.
So, personally, it's a mask that you sloughed off.
Yeah, so...
Search for your...
So, I don't relate to it as strongly, I guess.
Okay.
From that angle.
And then here you're writing that, like, isn't it dumb, all of the world people running about trying not to die, hanging on to life like a grim death, and I want to die and I can't.
Yeah, I do think that I put that, I think... Ultimately, that's where all people would end up if they had to live forever. And I put that note about Gilgamesh. There's that character, his name is kind of hard to say, Utnapishtim? Utnapishtim. It's hard to say because it's like Babylonian.
Yeah.
But he's like the Babylonian version of Noah. And so he like builds a boat and there's a flood that a god sends, but like one of the other gods tells him to build this boat. And so like once the flood subsides and like him and his people have survived, that the god that sent the flood to kill everybody is like pissed off that he escaped, so he gifts him with eternal life, but like in reality it's a curse.
It's a curse, yeah.
And so when Gilgamesh shows up and it's like, how are you like living eternally, and like how can I be like you? And he's basically spends the whole time being like, bro, you don't want to live forever. It sucks.
Yeah, and I think that's why he keeps coming back to like death is like a blessing and she's your friend. And
yeah,
I think that's one of the things a lot of people like about this Death character is that he's made her like cute and friendly and happy and pleasant. And...
yeah, but that's kind of what I don't like about her at the same time.
Why?
Because, like, she's supposed to be charming and lovable, right? She just seems kind of contrived. And like I said, it seems like he based it off of, like, a goth girl that he had a crush on. You know what I mean? And then he's, like, made her into this idealized thing. Like, I don't know, he said he, like, saw a waitress, right? And so I feel like he just thought that waitress was, like, cute or something. And then...
I think he saw the waitress after he wrote that.
I know, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it just metamorphosized into this thing and...
Well, yeah, I mean, he definitely has talked about encountering her for real. Like, but, I mean, that's also just, like, probably some fangirl read the book and did cosplay and just happened to kind of look like, I don't know. I thought that was interesting, though, that you said, like, you felt like every female character in this book was, like, some chick he previously had a crush on.
Or, like, they just don't feel... I don't know how to explain it. She feels like more of an object and less of a person. Or, like, more of a concept and less of a person. And maybe that's intentional, but she feels like... I don't know.
Well, I mean, she is, like, this... eternal thing, not...
But it just doesn't feel sincere. I don't know how to put it. It's hard to explain.
I just thought that was funny when you said it. We've tried not to talk about this very much, but the one thing she did say is that she felt like all of the women in here were like girls he had crushes on and couldn't get with, or had been with and missed or something like that.
I don't know.
And I thought that was funny just because, like, these books had such a big female readership, and they all thought, oh, Neil Gaiman wrote such good women compared to everyone else. And
I mean, I also don't read a lot of comics, so, like, maybe this is good. You know what I mean? And
also, like, 90s.
And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying something about it didn't, like, pull me in all the way.
Okay. But also compared to like I don't know, Lady Death or something, which is just like, or Vampirella or something.
Yeah.
Like this is, I think, at least at the time in the 90s, was seen like as like, look, there's some kind of actual like interesting female characters being represented, some like actual real female characters later in the book that aren't the super sexy bosom.
Yeah,
So it's just interesting now in like 2020 that you're looking back on it and it feels just still not there.
Yeah, I don't know. Something about it just doesn't feel like that book. What was it called? Seasons or whatever?
Oh, the Manji Top.
Yeah.
Feelings.
Like, she felt, I mean, because it is like a real person, but like that felt like a real woman.
Yeah.
She just feels, you know, like that whole like manic pixie girl thing.
Yeah.
She's like that, but the goth version to me. Kind of. And I don't like that. To me, that's like very, it makes me feel ick. Because like I've had people like treat me like that.
Yeah.
So I don't like it.
But like art guys especially, like you could see Neil Gaiman being attracted to that and like chasing that down.
Yeah.
And like, so I get what you're saying is like, he's kind of wrapping up like what young Neil Gaiman was probably chasing around. And given that he wound up with the Amanda Palmer from the Dresden Dolls, it doesn't seem that far off to me that this is just his taste set. Anyways,
I'm sorry, Neil Gaiman. I don't know you personally. I'm not shitting on your work.
No, like, that's just, whatever, that's what you saw. It's fun. It just was funny. It was a funny comment to me, given the typical reception of the book. Anyways, you wrote something about hospice nursing there. I'm there for old and young, innocent and guilty, those who die together and those who die alone.
Oh, well, she said, no, it's here. She says, I'm not blessed or, like, merciful. It's just me. I've got a job to do and I do it. Like, that's how I feel about hospice nursing. Like, it's always awkward because when I tell people I want to do hospice, they're like, oh, like you're an angel, or like, oh, bless you, or like,
yeah.
I don't know, like even you said that to me, and I know they're being nice, but it's like, I don't really feel that way. It's like, I feel like that's just what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Or like I can do it and somebody needs to, so.
Well, when I say like, oh, bless you for doing that, it's because like you wouldn't catch me anywhere near that.
No.
So it's like, thank goodness there are people like you that feel like that's their calling in life.
No, I know. It's just awkward for me. But like for me, it's just like, it's a job.
You're not being a hero
that needs
or
to
anything.
be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like heroic. It's just.
Well, and I do like that they present death that way. Like, and I think it was in here somewhere. She talks about that she used to treat it in a different way, and then had just learned to take on this like happy personality about it, and like over time, I like that development of the character. So that's the first two. Now I don't know if you understood, like if this had enough context, but these first two stories are issues out of the actual Sandman run. That were like, they were like one-off issues focused on death, and then here this is like a starting a she was popular enough that she got her own mini series of 4 issues.
Oh.
So I don't know if that made sense in this collection or not.
I just kind of like was like, okay, these are separate stories.
Okay. But that was easy enough to tell.
Yeah, it was fine.
So this, I'm assuming most people who are watching the channel understand what these are, but the Absolute Death is like a collection of all of the major death stories. So it's like someone who's a fan of that character can just pick up that book and get all these extras in the back and stuff. But like if you got Absolute Sandman, it would have these in it as well, because that's
the first two.
The first two.
Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense.
So then this is the one that people said, oh, have her read Death, the High Cost of Living, and I was like, well, I'll just get the whole thing. But this was the first like mini series, and what is this? 1993.
No, okay, yeah, it's bad.
This poetry is bad?
Yeah. Anytime there is like song lyrics or something like that in a comic or a manga, it's just bad.
But I feel like I don't do poetry. Like, it's so hard for me to consume it. Like, all poetry sounds like shit to me.
No, like, I like poetry.
Well, that's why I put that there, because I wanted to know.
No, it's bad.
Because, like, Neil Gaiman has also wrote books of poetry and stuff. And, like, he's considered, like, a good writer. Not just a good comic writer, but...
Okay, again, to me, it's bad.
This is bad, sappy poetry.
Yeah.
Okay. I just had to check on that. Because I don't know. I don't have any barometer. Like, all poetry sounds like this to me.
No, there is good poetry, but that is not an example.
I remember reading a Neil Gaiman book where he was going through, like, poetic forms, like, the tricks of it.
Yeah.
Like, and he was explaining how each different, like, what made the form of each one, and then he wrote poems, and I was just impressed by the technical kind of, like, how each poem works. You know, you have to start and end with a rhyme, or you have to...
Yeah.
That's as far as I can go with poetry. What makes good poetry versus this being bad poetry?
I don't know. How can you ask me that question? Like,
I don't know. Like, I don't know what good to me, all poetry is bad. It's just like...
You're asking me like an unanswerable question.
Okay, we'll move on.
Like, what's the ineffable quality of good poetry? I don't know. It makes you feel something.
Yeah, okay, we'll just move on. Ennui is insufficient.
Oh, because this random redhead, I don't know what that is all about, like tells him that it's not enough to want to kill himself just because he's like, that same thing we were talking about with the dream guy. Like, they're feeling that same thing of like, what's the point?
Oh, okay. Like, ennui is not enough. Just figure something out. That's not enough to justify taking your life.
Yeah, because like when I was a teenager, I totally went through that too. And then ultimately had to come to that same conclusion that like, it wasn't enough to just...
Like, I'm aimless and that's enough to check out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then I had to be like, okay, well, that's stupid. Like,
Yeah.
and I need to get with the program. Like,
well, but that's like the gothy thing, right? Or like these characters kind of have like the punky thing. Did you find any of the characters in this story more believable? Like you have the Foxglove and I forget her partner's name, but her girlfriend.
Yeah. I guess they were more believable. This part to me was weird. She just like bumps into like a rando greasehead and is like, yeah, let's just walk
And talk.
And I mean, I know she's like only got one day to live, right? So she's like, fuck it, I'll just do whatever I want.
Yeah.
But even so, like dragging this little teenage boy with her, if she's this eternally wise being, don't you think she would be like, maybe I shouldn't go into this random alley with this weird chain-smoking, greasy fuckboy?
Well, but there's like these kind of almost necessary chain of consequences that play out in these stories, right? Like his stories kind of always have that structure where there's like these seeds of things that all kind of weave together in the end in an almost like fate-driven way. And I feel like that's going on in this story as well. Like the Mad Hattie character. And there's just...
Yeah, and like what's going on with that? And then like this dude's head just gets like blown open and then... I don't know.
But they're trying to find something, right? For her heart or something like that. Like
yeah, they're trying to find her heart. And she's just hanging out at her apartment waiting for her.
But it's like in this... like it's just...
It's in a nesting doll.
Yeah, it's in a Russian nesting doll. And so there's this chain of consequences that need to go down to make that thing happen.
But it's just weird, right?
I don't know. I guess I'm more familiar with this kind of just logic. Like the story's kind of tight and hermetically sealed. And you think it's just too contrived?
Maybe.
Maybe.
And then they're like, hey, this dude died, but let's play marbles and like spoon. And you know, like...
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if he intended it, but there's definitely the things being set up in here that play out in the second miniseries with her kid. Right? Like with Fox, and I forget, because it's been a month or two since I got this and read it, but the
other lady.
What's her partner's name that has the kid?
Oh, I can't remember because it doesn't matter. Like Foxglove is clearly the more important.
But in the end, it becomes the kid that's important, right? Like in the next one, because he's the one that like dies, and they have to go wander in and save him and trade a life and all of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just the fate stuff. I can't even write what you wrote there. Read what you wrote.
Oh, I wrote frictionless sex.
Oh, okay.
Because she was talking about like the crappy things that have happened. She's like saying, I've had a good day. And he's like, well, bro, we got like locked in and the dude's head got exploded. And she's just like, yeah, but like bad things have to happen.
The good bits and the bad bits and the dull bits and the painful bits. Like it's part of the whole thing. Yeah, so the reason she wrote that frictionless sex is that's the thing I've been saying lately. Because I'll get real frustrated. Like, in general, things are obviously going really well for me. There's been a lot of awesome... Like, this summer's been crazy. Like, all kinds of awesome stuff has happened.
Yeah.
But, like, the particularities of, like, things just not working or my computer breaking or someone driving stupid, like, they still really frustrate me. And I just, like, things are going well, but can it just be, like, frictionless? Why does it have to be so much work to get simple things done? And then I have to keep reminding myself, like, would you actually want frictionless sex? Like life that was completely 100% lubricated. Like, I don't know if that would be enjoyable or not.
I don't think so. Or like that idea of like to have light, you have to have dark, because otherwise it would just all be the same.
Yeah, or there's at the end of the Abolition of Man, C.S. Lewis is talking about if you could see through everything, then you don't see anything.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if there is no friction, then there's just nothing. Yeah, so that's what I do like. And like, again, this is 93, so compared to...
Yeah, I like those moments. I do like those moments. It's just the overall story felt just a little weird to me. But I do like those small little... It's kind of a weird way to answer his question, but... He's like, dude, we just went through all this crap. And she's like, yeah, but let me tell you this, like, little piece of wisdom.
Something profound.
Something profound.
Yeah, he says very profound.
And I would have been like, bro, just shut up. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Well, she's brought him back to the place from the first story, right? Isn't that same fountain that she's at with Dream?
I didn't think they were at a fountain.
Isn't he at the...
He's at the gate, or the arch.
He's at a water feature, though.
A water. I do like a good water feature.
We just went to Atlanta and hung out with water feature. I guess they're not there. Okay, I thought maybe she brought your kid back. I like that effect. That's photocopy before Photoshop. You'd stick it on the photocopier and drag the picture.
Oh.
You could still do that with your scanner. People don't do those effects anymore.
They don't need to.
Okay, so this is the end of the first Death miniseries.
Yeah. And it was okay. It had a nice little tidy ending, sort of.
But that's your general assessment?
Yeah, I just feel very, like, meh about the overall thing.
Meh, okay.
But there were, like, small moments of, like, I like that.
Yeah, I think on my reread, too, it's... Like, I remember when I first read these things, like, compared to what else I was reading, you know, like, Spawn or, like, Youngblood or so. It's just, like, guys with shoulder pads shooting each other.
Yeah.
Like, this really changed... This and comics like this changed my mind about what they could be.
Yeah.
Because it was attempting to be something else. But I'm skeptical now going back about how good... I mean, I'll have to reread Sandman at some point too, but I'm skeptical about how good they really are versus they were just so much more mature than anything else at the time. It seemed like, oh my God, groundbreaking. But like relative to like everything is illuminated or, you know, like with some really good novels, like I don't know that these hold up.
Yeah, maybe that's because that's part of the problem too, is I like read more novels, so I'm used to more, like there's more space and time, right, to build those emotional moments.
Yeah, and now me like reading a lot more manga where they're like these huge long series that can really get into it. That's been making me rethink too. I mean, I still think for what it is as a 4-issue miniseries, it's like good comics and it's well made. You know, and from like a comics geek perspective, there's a lot going on in this that wouldn't be interesting for us to talk about. But I don't know. It's just, it's fun to get that outside perspective of like, how good is this really? And like, how good is he at writing women really? So this is the second one. Same artist, by the way.
Yeah, this one I could tell it was the same.
But has like evolved his style, which for me is fun. Because this guy's gone on to have like a really crazy style. And it's fun to see him taking the next step towards the simplified cartoonier exaggerations. Chris Bacallo. So in this one you have Foxglove and her girlfriend, whose name I don't remember. Fox has now gone on to be like famous. Super famous, and it's putting strain on their relationship, and the girlfriend is at home with their child. And there's just people gonna be dying. I like that picture, by the way.
Yeah, there were some cool scenes in here, like her dreaming, that guy. There was some cool artwork.
Like this, I really like. This is one of the things that this artist has gone on to do a lot of, like these big kind of surreal images and then like people walking through the space. I feel like, not that he's the first person to ever do that, but he's someone who does it well and has done it very consistently, and maybe one of the first people I saw doing it. And I've always liked that, especially for a dreamscape, because there's no separation.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't chunk it up. It's like some weird mental state that you flow through, and I think that works very well for dream state and surreal, like magical stuff.
Yeah.
And also for the time, I know I've been seeing about the TV show, people complaining that it's super like LGBTQA plus, all of that. Like, we've got to check off every box and get one of everyone on the TV show.
Yeah.
But I think that's consistent with we haven't watched the TV show yet, but that seems consistent with the Sandman universe in general, because he did have main characters that were a lesbian couple, which for 93 was like pretty forward at the time. So it seems...
even like throughout the story, like she's struggling with like coming out, right? Because at the time that was still like career suicide, more or less.
Yeah, and they're like, to me, and when you were talking about Neil Gaiman, like all of these characters seem based on girls that he had crushes on or something like that. Like, to me, this is all Lilith Fair. It's just I call them Lilith Fair, but it's all like Melissa Etheridge.
Yeah.
Torie, Fiona Apple, like Sarah McLachlan, Alanis Morissette. Like, it's definitely within that vein. And there were a lot of those women that was kind of like a big deal. Like, everyone kind of knew, but it was a big deal when they came out.
Yeah.
And like the Lilith Fair was just like the angry lesbian music fest or whatever. Like, I get why at the time, like, people really connected with it, because it was very...
Yeah.
And then you have Death, which is like instead of the rocker chick, she's like the one who's listening to The Cure, you know. I just don't know how that holds up. I'll be curious to see if like that TV show brings some of these vibes back.
Like, still goes with that, or like tries to modernize it.
Or if it cycles back into the popular, like the mullets and all that are back, you know. So like, when is the like Depeche Mode goth girl gonna come back, and does the show kind of incentivize that?
I think I could be okay with that.
You'd be okay with that?
Yeah.
Oh, the little goth girl in you's there enough still.
I mean, it won't matter. I'm not allowed to. I have to not scare old people.
It's better than the mullet thing that...
Yeah, it is better than mullets.
By the way, we're in the deep south, so if people can, from other places in the country, can report back on if mullets are making, like, mullets and short shorts on guys.
Yeah, so please let us know if in your general region, like permed mullets on college-aged men, and then I call them hoochie daddy shorts, because they're really small and they're really tight.
They really like having their like tanned hairy legs
out. They like come up to like, they're less than half thigh. So please let us know if that's a thing in your area.
And pulled up like sports socks with your shorts on.
Yeah, like tall socks and like dad sneakers. So please let us know if you see that, so we can tell if this is a local nationwide problem or if it's just a localized thing.
It's like everything that I rebelled against in my youth as a 90s kind of...
They just look like 80s dads.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like, they all look like...
And I know I look like a dad in like my khaki shorts and my black or gray t-shirts, but I don't know. To me, like, the way I dress was like 90s, you know, high school kind of, not grunge, but...
I don't know what to call how you dress, but
But it was just like skater stuff. Like you wear your khaki shorts and like your flat shoes and not like sneakers and like a t-shirt.
I guess.
Like,
I don't know. That's
I don't know. To me, that's like way less of a thing, you know? It's so bland. Like it can't be targeted to a time. But these mullets and booty shorts. Anyways.
Okay, wait. Where did you unstick that from?
It was like right here. One of the hardest leaps to make.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so when she says, she's asking about their son, Alvy, and she's like asking if he's dead, and Death says, yeah. And so she says, well, that's not right. And Death responds that it's not right or wrong, it just is. And that's like the hardest, I think that's the hardest jump to make when like shifting to a more death positive view.
But what about from a personal, like, because right now she's going through like her kid
grieving,
died.
yeah,
her young kid died, and so there's like society having a death positive view, and then like an individual in the middle of grief being able to.
Yeah, she's still gonna. I think that's kind of like the whole point of grieving, is being able to get to a point where I can say, okay, it just is.
Yeah.
Like, and that still sucks, and like that still makes a person sad. So I don't think that's like when, you know, your family member passes away, you just like take 10 minutes and you're like, well, it just is. I think that's like the point of the whole grieving process, and that can take like years. But I was just saying, I think that's like the hardest hurdle to finally getting to a point where you're like, you're never done grieving, but on the other side of like the mountain.
So like, do these interactions then where like a grieving person can actually speak to like an anthropomorphized embodied version of death, do they feel like I don't know, like well written?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, I guess, brisk maybe, but I think that's intentional.
Well, and also like you got
and you only have so much
like
space.
24 pages.
Yeah, and also, but like I think that also too is how probably that conversation could go. Like I wouldn't be articulate. I would just be to the point.
Yeah.
Like, this sucks. I don't want this to happen.
And Death is pretty just like straightforward about it. Like, I can't do that. I don't make deals. You're getting wet.
Which is how, as a like someone who works at hospice, like that's how you have to be. You have to be very straightforward, and like we don't like. You're not supposed to use euphemisms like, oh, they've passed on, or they're, you know, resting peacefully. You're supposed to say, okay, they've died, because you have to be to the point and not hurtfully blunt, but honest and straightforward.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way, like, that person can, like, their family can start to process.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that, beyond like did your little goth girl like it, or you expanding on, you know, the female character comment that you made, is like, as someone who's heavily invested in these ideas, like, do these books feel like they provide some kind of like helpful contribution, like, because we talk about stories a lot too, you know?
Yeah, I do think it's helpful in that way. I just think it's also, on the flip side, it's that same instinct of like making death seem friendlier. So in the same way of like saying passing away, we're like, oh, well, death isn't scary. Death is a cute goth girl that will hold your hand and give you a hug.
And you find that to be like not so helpful, or?
I think it's interesting from like a storytelling point, but I think,
because like one of the things we talk about often is just the need, like, we don't have cultural stories that help us deal with it anymore. Like, So
like we don't have any myths or like legends anymore. Like
yeah, is this like a good myth or legend? Like obviously
Yeah.
we're not gonna believe that this is really the thing, but does the story help reframe?
I hope it does. I think it could.
Like for someone going through grieving, like to then have like this little story, or to watch like if some of the I think this first story is in the from the previews of the Sandman show that I've seen. I think they have this first one in there. I think that's one of the episodes. I think from the previews I've seen, because I've seen them sitting out feeding the birds.
Yeah, and that one I liked. That was probably my favorite.
Okay.
So.
And that was the first death story. That was her introduction, where people just like, oh, this is such a great character.
Yeah, but then I feel like it kind of got a little more... I don't even know what the word is.
Like, too hand-holdy, or...
Or too... Like, she's just a well-liked character, right? So they just want to talk about her.
Okay. Spin off. They spun off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not bad. And like these little moments, again, I really enjoy. It's just the overall thing I kind of was like, meh.
It just like, it's a good question to think about. Like, okay, we've kind of getting rid of the mythologies, but we can still have mythological stories that we could hand to someone that are like, okay, here's something kind of easily consumable, but it'll have these moments where you get the like, hey, it's the journey, not the end.
Like the stop and think moment.
Yeah, like, hey,
yeah.
You know, like it just is. Hey, living forever wouldn't be so great, you know, these type of things. So I think that's good. It puts it in a consumable package. You just wrote sad.
Oh, because she was talking about that, like, memory she had of her and Foxglove, and how it was, like, the one memory that carried her through the hard times of their relationship. And then she asked Foxglove about it, and she didn't remember it. And so then, what is this person's name? Yeah,
they're humming Elvis Costello.
Yeah. So then Foxglove doesn't remember it, and she says like she feels weird about it then because it was so important to her and it didn't matter at all to Foxglove.
Yeah.
So she feels like she has to like protect that memory, or she's like the owner of it.
That's probably like a super common thing though. Like, I'm sure we probably have something that...
Yeah, totally. But, like, in the context of, like, a failing relationship, when that's, like, the one memory that has been, like, carrying you through this relationship that's, like, falling apart, and then you ask her about it, and she doesn't even remember, like, that would be so crushing.
Yeah, that would be pretty bad. I think, like, our core memories are pretty synced up for the most part.
Yeah, probably. But that was like really...
We don't need to go down that road on camera. But yeah, I'm sure like every relationship has it. But to have it be like the one memory, that would be pretty crushing. Hazel.
Hazel, yes.
Hazel and Foxglove. Are those both flowers or plants?
Yeah.
Yeah, seems like. Oh, the dogs want to be involved. Poochie, get out of here.
Go on, kids.
This is what happens when we do it as a family. And so they go in and they like trade this guy's life, right?
Yeah, Boris.
She's lost her manager and her kid.
Well, not Boris. His name is like Endymion or something.
Boris was her manager.
Yeah, but...
And then her bodyguard, this guy.
His name is... They call him Boris.
That's his real name.
But his real name is Endymion.
Isn't that a mythological character?
Yeah, he's the guy that sleeps forever. He's so beautiful. I can't remember the name of the goddess, but she falls in love with him. The one that brings on night.
Mm.
So she has him sleep forever. And then like during the day she goes and lays with him.
So he's going to go sleep forever to save her kid's life.
I guess, yeah.
I like that like death gives it away too. She gives his name, and then they're all like kind of making fun of him, like Endymion, and he's like, "Don't start. I prefer Boris." I don't know. I still feel like I do get to know the characters and their people more in these stories. Like I get why Death doesn't seem like a person to you, but I don't think she's supposed to. She's like a personification of an idea. But I do kind of feel like I get to know, like, even a character that seems kind of ancillary at first, you know, he's the bodyguard. Like, I do like that he makes kind of everyone and everything important.
Yeah.
That just felt too tidy to you, though.
It's hard to say.
Fair enough. And then we end on the butterfly.
The butterfly.
And then look at them all later in life, giving up on being famous.
Living a normal, long hair life.
Hippie life instead of punk rock life.
With an old beater car.
I think that would be more satisfying. I wouldn't want to be famous.
No, that would suck.
We went to a gigantic concert in a stadium with like 50 to 55,000 people the other day. Mm-hmm. And I think we were both looking at the guy on stage and just like, oh my God, that would be like, to me, I'm curious about like the chemical state he's in, but I think we're both ultimately like, nah, that sounds terrible.
It was yuck for sure.
And it has to be bad for human psychology to be in the middle of an arena like that.
Yeah.
And like once a week you get that experience where 50,000 people are telling you you're a god. So that's interesting to me that she also like realizes, okay, screw that. I'm just gonna go be a person. That's more fulfilling.
Yeah.
And that seems wise to me. You know, just focus on that stuff. I think that's a lot of where I've come to as well. This one, I forget what this one is. I forget why I put a sticky. I probably just put a sticky because this is the first page of a new story.
I don't
know. This is by Jeffrey Catherine Jones, though, who's an artist I really like. And John J. Muth colored it. You put a sticky here. The only people who greeted me with relief did so as an escape from something bad or intolerable.
Oh, actually, what I was saying is the rest of them just wish I'd go away, as if dying were some kind of admission of failure. Again, I like relate that back to working in the medical field, because like death is viewed as a failure, right? In like patient care.
Yeah.
But like that's not always necessarily the case. Like,
yeah, it's like gonna happen. So like keeping them alive endlessly.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, let's offer this next treatment or this next treatment, or like what's the next thing we can try to do to like cobble this person back together, when maybe it would be better to just like give you morphine and let you hang out for like 9 months and have a good 9 months with your family.
And this is the story where it talks about how she became who she is now, right?
Yeah.
Like how she started off trying to take the job seriously, and how she got bummed out when people
like weren't happy.
Yeah. And anyone who's like happy to die, like they're coming from something bad or intolerable. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that's necessarily the case, because there's cultures that, and I forget if they talk about it or not, but there's cultures that like you earn your death. Yeah. Like a good death. And I think that's, I don't know if they talk about that in here, because again, it's been a while since I read it, but I think that's I don't know. I do think we could have more of that in our culture. Yeah. Like a well-earned death and a good death. You know, I think about like the way my grandma Jo died, where it's like she got to see another one of her grandkids get married. She got to hold her third or fourth great grandbaby for like the second time. This is this big family event. And then she just died in her sleep later that night. It was like,
yeah, I mean, that's like the perfect way out, right? But, you know, I mean, not everybody gets that. But I think we do have that. We are having a shift like towards that, where it's like a life well lived. It's just,
yeah.
Sometimes we get it wrong, like
what that means.
Yeah, like right now it's like you have to have a side hustle and a side hustle for your side hustle, and it's like production, like.
Well, I mean,
but like, yeah, that is part of it, but there's more to it too, right? It's like sitting on the couch with the dogs and going to the aquarium and like looking at fish and...
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is it's an unfortunate thing where like we're in this spot where to go to the aquarium.
Yeah. So it's like
and
that
to
balance.
sit in the house with the dogs.
Yeah.
You kind of got to have the side hustle on the side hustle on the side hustle. You know? Or like to go have that, like, to afford to be able to check out for a week. I mean, I guess like when we first met and I was living with Kyle, like I had all this free time, but I like to make that happen. I was like renting a room in a house with like 3 other guys.
Yes.
2 other guys, 3. So there's like a trade-off to that. And like I couldn't just hang out with you and the dogs in that situation.
Yeah. I don't know. It's complicated.
Life is complicated. I think that's just another note to say we're on a new story. This is more like, this is the same artist again that drew the other ones, but now this is his more contemporary, like weird style.
Yeah, this one was weirder.
I don't even remember what this one was about, honestly. Yeah. Here's another one about giving yourself a purpose.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of the same idea that we talked about earlier.
Walk the world. Help to feed the hungry. Help comfort those in pain. Do what you can to leave the world a better place. Like, it's inherently meaningless, so we get to choose. Are we going to try and do a little bit to make it better? Or we complain. I don't remember what that story was about at all, honestly. Was this a post 9/11 thing?
No, he's at like a circus.
I'm pretty sure this came out post 9/11 though.
Oh, I don't know.
Because they got the little... This is for something. They got... What is that little...
I don't know.
That was for some special thing. And then there's this one, Death in Venice, with art by P. Craig Russell, who's a very famous Neil Gaiman collaborator.
Yeah, this one was very weird, and it made me think of, what was it, that robot from Futurama, the hedonist bot or whatever?
I've never watched Futurama.
Oh, no? Okay, yeah, well, it was just like, yeah, he wants to die squished between 2 virgins being flattened by an elephant, but then like they don't...
I mean, I can relate given my proclamation that I wouldn't mind dying by having Nicki Minaj crush my head. So that's all I see when he's got this elephant.
Anyway, so my point is, but then they don't die, right? Like they can't die here. They don't age or die. So
There's
well, I'll say it when we get to the end of the story.
It's like a weird loop, right? They're like stuck on this island, like in an endless
day.
night. Yeah. I think it's interesting that Neil Gaiman, he's kind of always subverting mythology or like trying to strip mythology bare. Like he'll take the mythology and then turn it into like the bare psychological lesson of like, well, just keep yourself busy. You know, he'll try and find like the psychological truth behind the myth, but then that's like what I think about his career in large, is that he's doing that, but then he'll always be writing his own myths too. Like he's very invested in that. And so this seems to me like him writing his own myth. And when he does that, I don't think I get the point as much as when he breaks down a pre-existing one. Like I remember being slightly confused by this story.
Well, right, so the guy's a soldier and he spends like a summer in Italy with his family and goes to this small island, and there's like an abandoned ruin there. It's like time fuckery kind of. And so he meets Death and she says she's just waiting for this gate to open. And so he tries and he can't. So then he comes back as an adult and she's still there.
Yeah, he like sees her again.
And so then he opens it, and then this guy equates, he doesn't call her death, he calls her time.
And that time has finally caught up with him.
Yeah. And so, like, she kills all of these people that have been living in this ruin that has, like, stood forever, and, like, tells them all how they die. And then he says that he's, like, missed her.
Yeah, and that's where that one feels more like he's giving you a myth, but he's not giving you the truth behind the myth. Like, you got to sort it out.
Yeah.
And I don't know which I like better. I don't know if I like him explaining it more, if I like him making me figure it out. I feel like I remember the ones, like the earlier ones, better.
Yeah.
Like, they have more impact on me. This one is like a nice little kind of throwaway thing.
Well, this one was like a fun story, though. It's sort of like Edgar Allan Poe, plus some like mythology, plus like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
It was fun. I liked that one.
I like the art. I've always liked P. Craig Russell. He's got
Yeah.
a very clean style. Fun.
And it was funny to see Death with like giant bouffant hair.
And then back here,
She's talking about like wrap your junk up, like.
yeah. Well, then there's just a bunch of pinups, which is cool to have all these different versions. I still think I don't know if you even flipped through these.
I did.
But I'm trying to think like which one is still, and I still think Chris Bacalo is just like, to me, even though he's not the one that first drew her, I think that's Mike Drenberg did this one. So he set, and Malcolm Jones, like they kind of set the look. I feel like this guy to me is just the way I envision her. Like he captured the cuteness better than the other ones. But it was fun to look, because like here she's a little more edgy.
Yeah.
This one's so pre-Raphaelite. Like it was just fun for me flipping through. Like this one's pretty good too. Brian Baldwin. Just seeing how different people get that same archetype, and like how they're probably mapping their own preferences onto that. Like this feels more like someone I've probably actually seen, but I don't know. I feel like that's probably what you look like more. You're a young goth girl, but she doesn't feel so mythological. To me, this feels like a girl doing death cosplay. Anyways, I thought that was kind of fun.
I kind of liked her.
Dave McKean.
Yeah, and I noticed it was Dave McKean. She looks like me on the couch with like my little belly flap.
Over it.
my little rolls and my hair. And I'm just like flopped.
And her expression is just like...
meh. She's done with the day.
I've been reading medical surgical nursing.
Yeah, she's had a long day. She's gonna kick back.
Yeah. Which to me is just weird for
that one was cute.
The eternal death. That one feels way too realistic. I love John J. Muth's art, but that's too photorealistic to capture the character.
This one was like, to me, honestly, very gross and like grotesque.
Pulled out the kid's intestines.
And like, look at his face and then he's like, ugh. I just didn't like this one. I didn't like it. It was a little much for me.
I think Joe Quesada does it pretty good.
Yeah, that one was cool. But it's like that weird feeling of like everybody just kind of had a crush on her. I like this one too. She looks very like somber. Yeah.
But you feel like this is like each artist having a crush on her?
I don't know. I know people just like connect with characters and like them, and
well, I think a lot of girls connected with this character too. Like it had a huge female audience. And then this one is the Death Talks About Life, a public service comic. I am curious what you thought about this one.
I mean, she looks crazy. It was good basic information.
Just how to put a condom on, basically, and AIDS.
Wrap it up, don't get AIDS. Don't get pregnant.
I just think this is like a funny It's smart but funny that like this, I'm assuming, got handed out. I don't think it was just...
standalone pamphlet offered to retailers for free distribution.
Oh, they just gave out in comic shops. I just like the idea that this was like handed out in a high school class.
No, it was like in...
retailers and comic shops.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
Well, in 1993, 1992, not many people that were going into comic shops were there.
I was going to say that too. That's not nice. I mean, that's not true, you know. And, like, anyways, people should know about it. Like, it's important education. So I thought it was a fun idea. You know, like, medical professionals are always looking for new ways to get information out.
Yeah,
But she's talking about, like, how, like, syphilis isn't a big, like, syphilis is rare. And I'm like, not in Modesto, California. It's not.
Not down here. Not in Alabama. It's not either.
Yeah.
But I think in 1992, syphilis
it was yeah,
pretty
so
rare.
they've, like, made a comeback. So, guys, safe sex, please. Wrap it up.
Wrap it before you tap it.
Yeah.
Don't love her without a rubber.
This is our PSA.
Yeah. Well, this is Neil Gaiman and Dave McKean's PSA.
This is us piggybacking
joking.
on Neil Gaiman and Dave McKean's PSA. We're not joking. It's serious. Use a condom. But, but yeah. So I didn't not enjoy it. I didn't love it.
Okay.
But I did think there were, like, moments of wisdom, and there were things I liked about it. But some of it was just kind of weird. Maybe if I understood the whole Sandman universe more.
Yeah, I wonder too, and I'd have to, it's been so long since I read Sandman, but I feel like these characters also are in Sandman and play a role.
Yeah, they feel like they should already be significant to me, and they're not.
Yeah, I think they're in that universe, because they talk about, like, that she's done this blood magic before, and I'm pretty sure there's a storyline where these same characters are doing blood magic, and that's involved, and I think their kid is important somehow as well. But it's been so long since I've read those, I don't remember. But there's definitely some stories where kids are important. Like these nightmare entities are trying to get the kids. And there's definitely some witchery that allows people to go into dream. And so I think they're important in the larger Sandman universe, but it's been so long. I enjoyed it, but I probably read this a month or so ago.
Yeah.
Because you took longer to read it than me. And I'm already, like, fuzzy on the story details a lot. Like, I don't think it stuck, which to me is, like, a sign that it's same as you, that it's just, like, okay.
Yeah, like, it's all right.
Like, I remember, like, the general gist of what was going on.
Like, I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
But I'm not crazy about it.
But I don't think I put this up on, like, this wouldn't be anywhere near, like, my greatest comics of all time.
Yeah.
Type of list. But
I do think it was fun that, like, she wears an ankh, right? Because that's, like, the symbol for life.
Is that life? I don't know. I know it's Egyptian.
Yeah, it's Egyptian. Pretty sure it's life.
That life and death are just kind of the same thing.
They are the same thing.
Yeah. Once you're signed up for life, you're gonna die. Once someone signs you up for life.
It is a terminal illness.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I liked him. I think for me, like, one of the things I liked most is going back and seeing the early Chris Bacallo artwork. And it does. I like it. It has me excited to watch the TV show. It has me excited to go back and reread. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that I have any more to say about it. I thought they're good. And I definitely understand, like, why in 1993, like, these were...
Yeah, I think it had, like, valuable moments.
Impactful on the industry as a whole, too. Like, just moving comics forward into something more serious. And, like, obviously he had a worldview that he was, like, you know...
Yeah.
Opening up to a lot of comic readers and stuff. So, I don't know. Anyways, thanks for suggesting this one. Torie seems willing to keep doing this, I think.
Yeah, let me know if there's anything else I should read.
So we'll see what else we should be reading. I think I just got, and I'm going to forget his name, Anders Nilsson's The End, which is a book about dealing with the death of his fiance at the time. And I would like to look at that one compared to this one, because that's like much more personal and I think like more impactful. So I think maybe that will be our next one.
Yeah.
But yeah, other recommendations. I'm gonna filter through them though, and if people are like, yeah, read Berserk Volume 1 and see how she feels about the guy fucking the demon lady and then shooting her.
No, I've already shared my feelings about that. I think it's extremely phallic and homoerotic.
Yeah, but I'm gonna make sure that if you're reading something, it's not just because people want to see you react to.
Go, ooh.
Yeah, not just like, why is everyone sort of pee-pee?
No, I feel like people wouldn't do that.
It's the internet.
Anyways.
I trust our audience. But anyways, let's see what you would like us to review together next. That would be awesome. So, thanks for following along.
Thank you.
You're not going to tell Jack to take it away?
Oh, wait, right, okay. Take it away, Jack.
You want to see all these books? Smash that subscribe button and the like button and the bell, and then you get them.